Bill Belichick is playing mind games already. Sonny Dykes and the coaching staff better be ready.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Thank you for making Locked On Horned Frogs your first listen. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel later on in the show. Kylan Jackson, transfer safety from LSU, doing some good things during fall camp. Could he challenge Austin Jordan, who we thought would be the presumptive starter? He was on the team last year, transferred in from Texas a couple of off seasons ago. And we'll also get to your thoughts about impact freshmen, Keelan Abrams, Ed Small, Terry Shelton, and others that could play right away as true freshmen. But we start today with the season opener against North Carolina. Have a lot of coverage the next couple of days of that season opener on Labor Day. I have a crossover episode with Isaac Shade, host of Locked On Tar Heels, that I'll drop tomorrow. Always fun talking with him. Never actually matched up with North Carolina, but he hosts Locked On College Basketball as well. So I've had a few crossovers with him before the NCAA tournament. But one thing that he told me, which was interesting, Bill Belichick already playing mind games, which, hey, you wouldn't expect anything different. But I have been under the impression over the last few months that Gio Lopez would be the starting quarterback for North Carolina. He's a transfer from South Alabama, had a really good season last year, threw for 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, did a nice job taking care of the ball. Also ran for 465 yards on 83 carries, almost 6 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns. He is a dual threat quarterback. Freddie Kitchens is North Carolina's offensive coordinator. So, yeah, it's a little strange because Freddie Kitchens is an NFL guy through and through. And North Carolina is going to have an NFL offense. And so I asked Isaac Shade, I was like, hey, one thing that I'm curious about, what is this offense going to look like? Because we know it's going to have NFL principles, but you have a very talented running quarterback under center or in the gun. And I know Sonny Dykes at Media Days told the guys at 365 Sports, he was like, we've been watching tape of Freddie Kitchens when he was coaching Baker Mayfield with the Browns because we wanted to know what he would do when he had a mobile QB. So that makes sense and kind of tells me like he also expects Gio Lopez to start. A few years ago, Colorado came to town and there was a lot of hoopla around it. TCU didn't play well. They weren't prepared. They weren't ready. And part of that, I think, was all the uncertainty surrounding that team and that roster, and they didn't have a good feel for what they were going to do. Now, the funny thing about that example is we knew Shedeur Sanders was going to be the starting quarterback. Like, if there was anything we knew about that Colorado team, it was that Travis Hunter was going to play, even though I wasn't fully aware that he was going to play both ways at that level of football, and Shedeur Sanders was going to be the quarterback. But I asked Isaac that question, and he kind of threw me for a loop by saying, well, he said, if I have to predict today, I would say I think Gio Lopez is the quarterback, but there's a quarterback battle happening in fall camp. And he went on to say it wasn't like a quarterback battle. I mean, if you're a college football fan or a football fan, we can tell the difference, right? There are seasons where it's like, okay, these two guys are battling it out, but we all sort of know who the starter is. And then there's legitimately times, most recently, Chandler Morris, Max Duggan, where until the coach announces it, you don't know. And honestly, like that question takes up so much of the time and energy around covering the team before the season starts because it's such an important position. Isaac believes that Gio Lopez and Max Johnson are still battling for the starting spot. Now, Max Johnson, if that name rings a bell for you, he played at LSU. He played at Texas A&M. Had some good seasons there. At LSU in 2021, he threw for 2,815 yards, 27 touchdowns, 6 picks. I think he was, I guess I should have looked it up before I opened my mouth. I believe he was the quarterback. No, he wasn't the QB the time they beat A&M, or the time A&M beat Alabama. Anyway, he played some for A&M, and he was serviceable. So, honestly, this wouldn't be a big deal to me, except for the fact that these quarterbacks are very different. I talked about Gio Lopez and his mobility, and that's not me saying that Gio can't throw the ball, but his mobility brings an extra dimension to the football game. Max Johnson is more of your prototypical pocket passer. He's not a total statue back there, but his career high in rushing yardage was 119. That was on 54 carries at LSU, 2.2 yards per carry. Now, some of that was sacks, but still, I mean, he sounds a lot like Josh Hoover. Like he's able to move out of the pocket and keep his eyes downfield. And if there's an opening, scramble, but it's not something that he's going to do on a regular basis. So you're talking about two very different quarterbacks that bring different styles to the table. And I went today and I was looking online. I'm like, okay, well, what has Bill Belichick said about this? And I found a press conference right before fall camp where Bill was adamant that they hadn't made a decision yet. And multiple times during this presser, he said the word earned, which, I mean, that's a coaching buzzword, right? But he wanted to make it very clear that he wasn't just giving this job to somebody. And to me, that says, hey, I know a lot of you think this highly rated transfer from South Alabama is going to be the dude, but he's going to have to earn it in fall camp. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be the starter. I think what it probably means is it's his job to lose, but Max Johnson is there as a capable backup. And if things don't go well for Gio and he plays well, then he could be the starter. But the thing that raised my eyebrows the most, he said that this quarterback battle could extend into the season. Now, he also mentioned ideally you want to make this decision 2 weeks before the season, a week before the season. But if it goes into the season, Bill said he was comfortable letting it play out, which would mean both of those guys playing in the first game, in the season opener. Now, here's my take on this. I say all that to get to this point. I think Bill's just playing mind games. And that's not because, I mean, Max Johnson's a senior. He's very experienced. But I feel like Isaac put it well, and you'll see this tomorrow in the crossover episode. Max Johnson has a lower ceiling and probably a higher floor, meaning you know what you're going to get with them. He's going to make some good throws. He's going to protect the football. But can he get you to like the next level? Can he win games by himself? That type of dynamic play. He hasn't shown that in his career. Lopez gives you a higher ceiling, but there's also the flip side of that. If he can't make all the throws and make all the reads, make all the decisions, then there's a lower floor there. My thought is for Andy Avalos and this coaching staff, this defensive coaching staff, I believe you have to prepare like you're going to face Gio Lopez. And you need to be ready for that. You have to be ready for a dual threat quarterback who, even in an offense that has NFL principles, could break out an RPO or his own read or take the ball himself on a quarterback draw, quarterback sweep, that type of thing. Because if for some reason he doesn't end up being the guy, or if they switch back and forth, I think you can adjust on the fly a lot easier to what Max Johnson's going to do than to what Lopez is going to do. You can adjust your defense. If it comes down to, hey, we expected to see a dual threat guy and it ends up we got a pocket passer out here who's getting the ball out quick and trying to make high percentage throws and move the chains, you can adjust your defense accordingly. If you're expecting a more traditional style and then suddenly you get caught with a guy who is extremely athletic, I believe that's a lot tougher to make those adjustments in the middle of the ball game. So I don't want TCU to take the bait here. My assumption is that when the dust settles, it's going to be Gio Lopez's game. Potentially they go with both QBs, but I don't see it. I just feel like you're not playing. I mean, if North Carolina was playing South Carolina State, then maybe you're a little more conservative with this and you say, okay, let's play both of these guys and see what they do in live action. But you're playing a Power 4 opponent. You have to go with your guy and stick with them. So, TCU coaching staff, don't spend a lot of time preparing for Max Johnson. I think you can adjust accordingly if it happens. But I really believe this is going to come down to Gio Lopez being out there trying to make plays, and how can TCU respond to that? They need to play disciplined. They're going to have to get after him in the passing game. And when he does run, limit those big plays. Because you would expect, I mean, this offense for TCU, there might be some growing pains. I think it's going to end up being a really good unit, but those first few weeks, like you're making a lot of adjustments. You got some new personnel out there. So it could take some time for this to all gel together. All it does, you need your defense to be really solid, and that starts in this ball game against UNC. But another intriguing layer to the season opener with all the uncertainty. Now, even more uncertainty. North Carolina apparently doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be, at least as of now. When we come back, some fall camp notes, a transfer safety making some moves. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. Go to FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app today. They've got this deal going on. You make one $5 bet. You win that bet. You get $150 in bonus bets. That TCU North Carolina line has moved a lot. Frogs now 3.5-point favorites in that ball game. I like TCU to win. I like TCU to cover. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I believe they cover that 3.5-point spread. You can get in on the action. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Over-under is 58.5 points. I'm not crazy about over-unders and season openers. I just think there's too many variables at play. Offenses can get off to slow starts at times. The only over-under I feel confident about is over-under shots of Jordan Hudson, Bill Belichick's girlfriend. That's going to be over. That will be over in that ball game. I can tell you that much. In the broadcast, for sure. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. New customers. First $5 bet, you win. You get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel, proud sponsor of the Locked On Network, is where the game starts. One fall camp note that I maybe I mentioned it on Monday, but I'll circle back to it now. Avery Helm and Vernon Glover at full strength. Both those guys are corners. They tore their ACLs. It might have been the same day or within a couple of days of each other early in fall camp last year. And it was a big loss. I mean, Avery Helm was set to be the number one cover corner last season. They ended up having to go with JT Broughton and Lamarian James. And James was one of the unsung heroes of last year. Like if he wasn't able to play with the ability that he did, that could have been a very different season for TCU, but he held up his end of the bargain. And slowly they sort of figured out that other corner spot. Channing Canada, who's coming back and will have a chance this year to compete for a starting job. He's practicing. He was really good for them at the end of last year. Javon McIver showed some things at the end of last season. He's also getting his opportunities. But Avery Helm's going to be your number one corner. And that's good news. I don't know will be on the other side of him to start the year. If I had to guess right now, I would say it's Channing Canada. But I think Canada and McIver and Elijah Jackson, the transfer from Washington, Glover, I could see all those players rotating in and out. One thing that's really good about this secondary group at both corner and safety is that they are deep. And at the safety position, obviously you've got Bud Clark, Jamel Johnson, but that other safety spot, which is the nickel spot, it's it's kind of a hybrid safety and linebacker position. It was where Abe Kamara played last year. You need to have physicality and an ability to come up and make plays in the run game, but then also, can you cover? You can't get singled out in coverage situations because then that's bad news for the defense. So Austin Jordan was the player coming back that I had the most confidence in going into the season because he played some last year and he was a transfer from Texas. He actually played corner and safety at the University of Texas, but he settled at the safety spot since getting to TCU. And he had 16 tackles last year, 8 solo tackles, 1 sack. I mean, he made some plays. He was around the ball. That Cincinnati game, I thought he played really well. And that was a cold night. I mean, that was a game where if you were hitting people, you were feeling it because it was pretty brutal conditions out there. But I just sort of assumed that Jordan would be the guy. However, in that first portal window in the winter, TCU signed Kylan Jackson. And also his teammate, Kamorian Pimpton from LSU, is a tight end. But Kylan Jackson played safety at LSU. He is from Louisiana, born and raised there. It was a big deal when they landed him. I talked to the Locked On LSU host, and he was like, that was a big recruiting win for them, getting him to stay home. Not a lot of stats through his career, just 5 tackles total. But a 4-star recruit, has really good athleticism, a lot of ability, 6'3", 200 pounds, so is built well. And as I said earlier, like, you have to be able to come up and be physical and make plays at the line of scrimmage, but then also have the athleticism to run with wide receivers and tight ends and players like that. And the Locked On LSU host was like, he's crazy athletic. So there's that part of it. I saw Steven Johnson, who wrote a story, I think it was Wednesday, about just like 4 surprises since practices started, players that have caught his eye, and Kylan Jackson was one of them because of that physicality. Now, there will be a rotation here. So when it comes down to it, I mean, it's important who the starter is, but I think there's a world where you can play both these guys and get good snaps out of them. But Kylan Jackson's just a name to know and somebody to watch because he's shown up. And TCU actually did this a couple off seasons ago, and it wasn't super successful. But after that national championship year, they went after a lot of players in the portal that, for whatever reason, like SEC type of guys, Alabama guys specifically, that were either injured or didn't get a lot of playing time. It didn't work out for them. So that's Kylan Jackson's story, right? Like he's still young, but he's a player that hasn't played a lot to this point in his career. However, Austin Jordan really hasn't either. So it's not like, I would say Jordan has the leg up in that he's been around the program longer and he got snaps last season, but he was a Texas guy that didn't play a ton in his first couple of years of his career and then got an opportunity here and, did his best to run with it last season. So that's one of those battles to watch. Also, Ryan Yates is a player they went and got from Cal. And I think he'll work in at a couple different spots, but that's another safety to know. I feel good about this secondary. Now, I've told you before, in my mind, pass rush and secondary go hand in hand. It's really hard to have a good secondary if you don't have a good pass rush, and vice versa. Like, you need both of them to work in tandem. You have to pressure the quarterback, speed up his processing time, make him uncomfortable, and then you have to cover in the back end of the defense. But I think they've got the players in the secondary and the athletes to be really successful this upcoming year if everything comes together like it should. Speaking of that pass rush, I told you yesterday about a true freshman that I've got my eye on. We'll talk about that next year on Locked on Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. So yesterday's show, I discussed Keelan Abrams, who was a true freshman out of DeSoto. And I was super excited when TCU recruited him and got his commitment. He's just one of those guys that is a football player. Like, he put up really good numbers in high school. We're talking 23 and a half sacks as a junior, 10 sacks as a sophomore, and 15 and a half tackles for loss. Was a little under recruited because he's just over 6 feet tall. Like, he's maybe a little bit over 200 pounds coming into college. But you turn on the tape and he didn't shy away from physicality. I mean, it wasn't like he was just using quickness, speed, and athleticism to get to the quarterback, even though that's a big part of what he does. He was also like getting after guys, and it was just fun to watch him play. He's made some things happen in fall camp. Now, granted, it's mainly with like the third team guys, but has been picking on some of these freshman offensive linemen, getting sacks, making plays. So that's good to know. And I just feel like as a situational pass rusher, he could be a player for this team. Vince Pryor says, take it from this unrated edge rusher at 215 pounds who started as a true freshman at TCU. Let him play. Some people just know how to play. They know where the ball is going, and they know how to make plays. I love it. Vince, do you still have eligibility? Can you still suit up for us? Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. Some guys just know how to do it. And I believe, like, with young players, if you give them specific roles and they can go out there and play with confidence and not have to sit there and like think too much as the game speeds up, then they can go out there and play well. I saw Jonathan Bax's name pop up a little bit more in practice reports today too. Had a couple sacks, which is good news because it's honestly like kind of an hour in every year for him. This is year 3 of like, hey, we think this guy's got potential. We think he can do it. But you have to go prove it and show it. And, somebody behind Devin Deal is going to have to step up and be a force. So I would love for Jonathan to be that guy. I mean, it'd be a great story. He was in the portal. Andy Avalos gets the job. And one of his first priorities was, hey, I need to get this guy back in the fold because he fits what we want to do, right? Like, he's got the body type and the frame for a stand-up edge rusher, really athletic player. So he went and got that done. And now it's just about him contributing on the field as well. And then one other YouTube user said, I guess I'll be missing out on some basketball games. That was about, so the Big 12 is going to sub-license some games, some basketball games that'll be streamed on Peacock. And I said, look, I get why the Big 12 is doing it. It's more exposure for them. It's another relationship with the network because Peacock's owned by NBC. It's Brett Yormark trying to branch out and get some money specifically from the basketball TV contracts and not have football and basketball lumped together. But for fans, it's disappointing because it's just another streaming service you have to buy. And it's like the point of cutting the cord and getting rid of cable TV and going into the streaming model initially was, well, this means you'll save some money and you can kind of pick things a la carte and have some more freedom. But now it's turning into, you have to have like 6 different subscriptions to watch what you need. And yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to get everything and keep it up on a monthly basis. We're getting closer, people. We're getting closer to the season opener. I will have a crossover edition with Isaac Shea from Locked on Tar Heels on tomorrow's show. Be sure to check that out to close out the week. And then we'll be back next week with plenty of coverage of fall camp. Hopefully we'll have some more clarity on what this offensive line looks like. Maybe some of the other position battles have been breaking down. How much of a step forward is this defense taking in year 2 in a new system, new coaching staff, all those things coming your way this next week. And also be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We want to get to 1,500 subscribers before football season starts. We're about 17 away. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, also available on YouTube.